All right, we're going to call this meeting to order at 8:01. If you could please join me on the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Good morning. So we have a little bit of a script here that we have to go through prior to roll call because President Powell is joining us from Washington, D.C. So we have to go through this script here. Prior to roll call, I would like to make clear for the record of this meeting, and it should be reflected in the minutes, that at least a portion of this board meeting is conducted pursuant to California Government Code Section 54953, and that President Powell is in Washington, D.C. and will be participating by speakerphone. In accordance with the Brown Act, the teleconference location has been identified on the agenda for this meeting. Clerk Bermudez, will you please call the roll?
Yes, good morning. President Powell.
Here.
Vice President Estrada.
Here.
Director Bianco.
Here.
Director Aguilar.
Here.
Thank you. We do have a quorum.
Okay. With that, we're going to make a request of President Powell to respond to the following questions, just to make sure that we can move forward and that everything's working fine. So first question, President Powell, can you hear me well?
Yes.
Were you able to hear our proceedings on this up until now?
Yes.
Do you have a copy of the agenda for this meeting?
Yes.
Have you posted the agenda at the location where you're at?
Yes.
Is your location reasonably accessible to the public such that any member of the public could participate in this teleconference from your location if he or she wished to do so?
Yes.
Is there any member of the public there with you who would like to participate in the public comment portion of this meeting or otherwise address any agenda item for the meeting?
No, there is not.
Thank you. Okay, so as a reminder, all votes for this meeting will be taken by roll call. Okay. Let's see here. All right, we already took roll call, right?
Jed, I know I was testing you on that script.
All right. It's like taking roll call twice. All right.
Sir.
All right. Okay, so we got through that. Now we can go through the agenda items. Are there any additions, deletions, adjustments to the agenda?
No, sir, there are none.
Okay. With that, we're going to move on to public comment.
Yes, Vice President, we do have a couple of speakers in the audience, but just for the record, we did receive a total of 4 written correspondence letters, which were emailed to the board. They did come in just prior to the meeting around 6:37, so they were emailed, but also copies were provided to you. We received a letter from Todd Miner, Nerissa Aguilar, and 2 from Yvette Zamora Cruz. They've been added to the record, and again, copies have been distributed to the board.
Thank you.
For speakers in the room, we will start with Julie Casterly. Please. Thank you. You'll have 3 minutes.
Good morning.
Julie Casterly from Sky Valley. We are here again.
Can you hold on a quick second, Julie? Your mic
Of course.
is not on. There you go.
Thank you. Sorry about that. You can hear me now?
Yes.
All right. Julie Casterly of Sky Valley. We are here again asking your board to put on the agenda for public discussion the efforts to divest CVWD of the ID8 district. General Manager Barrett, we know, is coming to our community council meeting tonight, but we want to discuss and understand from the board, our elected officials, and more specifically, our district representative, Aguilar, how the ID8 divestiture is moving forward without a vote from the board. This is the body that votes on issues, and we really would like to hear from you. Our community showed up at your 9/23 board meeting after finding out at the last minute about this attempt to divest CVWD of its responsibility to continue to provide our most valuable resource, fresh water, as it has for more than, the past 50 years or so. At that meeting, the board agreed after hearing our concerns. They voted 5-0 to table or continue the issue to Mission Springs took the first move, and then it was supposed to be brought back to your board for further discussion. While that discussion has never happened, somehow Mission Springs has in its possession a letter of support from CVWD to move forward with this divestiture issue. Once again, we found out when I just happened to look at the Mission Springs agenda the afternoon before that it was up for a vote that next day. Despite our showing up and asking that they table the issue till further explanation, they voted 3-2 to move forward with the divestiture of ID8 into Mission Springs, and we would like an explanation how that happened. Of major concern is that Mission Springs' current rates will double or triple our rate for water. Adding the cost of providing sewer that will not benefit us in any way does not seem fair. This is impacting an economically disadvantaged community, and I doubt it will meet the state guidelines for the grant that requires that consolidation is the most economical solution. The grant states that it may save customers the $85 a month, but does not take into account that a water bill that's $130 as a CVD customer would be $390 as a Mission Springs customer. Of course, that's great concern to our entire community because we have larger parcels. We're not little Desert Hot Springs lots. While we have heard several times that CVWD will have to raise its rates due to remediation costs, Mission Springs will also have higher costs. We have asked why CVD does not apply for the grant funds themselves. I believe it was reported to cost $25 million for remediation, $40 million to connect us, while Mission Springs is asking for $50 million. Why choose the most expensive option? Another major concern is we keep hearing about a LAFCO review and the opportunity to comment, but I've heard Mr. Barrett say to Mission Springs that because you all will consider this a change of boundary, that our voices may be heard, but ratepayers would not get a vote on this issue. There are so many questions that need to be answered or explained before this should even be considered. How we have gotten to this point without CVWD sending letters of explanation to all ID8 customers, once again, we ask that you make this discussion public and part of the CVWD record. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Noel Ragsdale. Is that correct? Okay, thank you.
Good morning. Noel Ragsdale. I'm also from Sky Valley. And I want to just add to Julie's comments. As you know, Mission Springs is going ahead with making a grant application for one of the entities that are giving grants. We don't know exactly which one, but we know they're moving ahead. And it seems to me, and I think I would say for other ID8 residents, very, very important that we really are up to date and informed about this grant. And the only way we can do that is to get a copy of the grant and then be given status reports as it proceeds through whatever has to be done for it to be determined whether to get granted or not. MSWD is the lead agency here. And normally we would want to ask them to give us a copy. But they have made it very clear that they do not feel any obligation to communicate with anybody in ID8 because, as they kept telling us, you're not our customer. So I'm here to ask you, the board and CVWD, to give us a copy, to give every member, every resident, every one of your customers in ID8 a copy of the grant application and give us status updates as it moves through the process. And you could either do that in a general mailing to us, one of the regular mailings, or put it on your website. But some way or other, we need to be kept informed in a timely manner and completely informed about what's happening with that grant. It will hugely affect us. We're the people who are affected. And we really need to know specifically and thoroughly what it is. So please consider sharing the information that I know you will get from MSWD and with all the customers who are going to be affected. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And next up, we have Tabitha Davies, please.
Good morning. I'm here again, as I was last week, and as I will continue to be until we have some sort of resolution to this situation. I'm going to echo everything that was already said and add to it my following concerns. I think that we need to have an additional clarification on the relevance of any sort of agreement between the Coachella Valley Water District and Stronghold and the City of Coachella. Because per the City of Coachella and Stronghold Development for the data center in Coachella, on a 59-page contract, it specifically cites that the Coachella Valley Water District will be the water provider in addition to the City of Coachella, and I find that mildly concerning. When I look at the situation that we're dealing with in ID8 and the fact that I cannot find anything online that seems to give your general manager express authorization to sign a letter of intent for consolidation, because it doesn't matter what the intention was behind the letter. In writing, it's a letter of intent for consolidation of the water districts, which would be something that would have to trigger a LAFCO process, and yet here we are. I think the public in our area deserves to know. I think the public in our area deserves to have very clear answers. What we've heard from both water districts so far is we don't know the numbers. We don't have the numbers. I need more than your GM's best guesstimate to understand this further, because on its face, you're eradicating our farm. And our farm is more than just a livelihood measure for our family. It is sanctuary for over 76 animals that have come from Riverside County and San Bernardino County Department of Animal Services, a community hub for people to learn how to garden and grow food in the desert so they have food sovereignty, and feeds approximately 93 families per month at no charge. You would be wiping us off the complete face of this entire valley by having us switch to Mission Springs Water District 2. At the end of the day, I cannot see, when I look at the parameters of the different grant loans, I mean, they're loans that could potentially be turned into grants, how they can even have us qualify in this situation based on the parameters that I can find available. And why, at the end of the day, would the Coachella Valley Water District, who states that water is a human right, want us to go to Mission Springs, where their water is worse? They have enough problems that they can't handle fixing with their own water. Why would we want to have anything to do with that? So I'm going to ask again that we have the public meetings, the public transparency, and some form of explanation as to how we got here. Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, those are all the speaker cards that I have, unless there's others in the audience.
So,
Okay.
I get it. I get it. There's so many things that are unknown. We're trying to find those unknowns. I don't think that Jim or anybody here at CVWD is trying to mislead any of you. There is not going to be a divestiture of ID8 without a board vote. We don't know the best option for you guys until we go through this process. So the process, the letter of intent, sounds like we're going to do this, right? But in the reality, we can't get to the state to see about this grant money without us following procedure.
Why don't we move? But no, because I think we should say stuff. But let's move our board member comments. Let's close this out, and let's move into board member comments, and then we can have a conversation. Because I think if we're going to address, you've been here several times.
I just didn't want to have him stay for another 30 minutes.
Well, that's why we're going to move the board member comments. So if there's so if there's no more public comment,
If I may, could I just recommend, before we do that, would we be able to handle special presentations so that our employee and his family could get through that?
yes,
and
let's
then-
do that first, and then we're going to move public. We're going to move our board member comments right after that, so that you can get to hear a response from us. I think you deserve that, and so if you could just give us maybe about 10 minutes or so, we can get to addressing some of your concerns. So with that, we're going to close off the public comment, and we're going to move on to presentations. Okay. Okay, so we have special presentations and recognitions, and we do have an employee here, Stephen Perez, Environmental Services A2, 20 years, and I'm going to read a little bit about Mr. Perez. A Coachella Valley native, Stephen Perez graduated from Coachella Valley High School and attended Chaffey Community College before joining CVWD back in 2006. He began his CVWD career in domestic construction, working on valve and hydrant maintenance before moving into distribution operations. During his time here, he earned his Water Distribution 1 certification, became a distribution operator, and later joined the chlorine crew in 2008, where he earned his Water Distribution 3 certification while expanding his skills. After nearly 20 years with the district, Stephen transitioned into a new role as an Environmental Services Aide 2. Currently, he helps monitor domestic water quality and supports groundwater replenishment efforts. His work includes collecting water samples, monitoring wells, and gathering data to help the district understand aquifer conditions. Stephen says this new position has also given him something unexpected, a deeper appreciation for the landscape around him. Quote, "I get to see so much of the valley now." That's what Stephen says. Quote, there are places out there that people don't realize exist. You really start to appreciate the beauty of the desert. That's true. Outside of work, you'll find Stephen competing in men's major softball tournaments, fishing in fresh or saltwater areas, and spending time with his wife of 18 years, Myra. Hi, Myra. And their 3 children, Stephen Anthony II, Michael Ryan, and Layla. Thank you, Stephen. We'll give you a round of applause. Before I go up there, I'm just gonna say that I hope that one day you take me fishing. I see you've been fishing for a long time and you catch big fish and I think one time we
do that too.
we went out there to the softball tournament and so maybe we get to do that again. I see you practicing. Last time you let me hit a few balls and I sucked. So I need some practice. So yeah. Yeah, thank you.
No more than 2 of you on a fishing trip at a time. So you don't have to house. And then you get your lines memorized, right?
Oh, here, yeah, perhaps.
Or you can sing a song. And thanks for bringing your family, and thanks for sharing it with us. You know, if it weren't for you guys, probably wouldn't be here, right? Now, we have a microphone. Oh. So you can broadcast out to the entire world. As long as it works.
Testing.
There you go.
I'd just like to take this moment to thank everyone in the audience, the board of directors. Thank you so much. My coworkers, my fellow coworkers that are no longer here that have come and gone, made some really outstanding relationships while being here. I'd like to give a shout out to the Environmental Services Department, Sergio and Kristen. Thank you so much for welcoming me with open arms, the Joanne's group. I enjoy my time here at Water District. It's been quite a journey. Like Castula read, when I first started, I was in the valve and hydrant construction department, then migrated over to the chlorine crew, and then now environmental services, where I enjoy my day-to-day challenges. I enjoy my time here. I've met a lot of really excellent folks, and the marathon's not over. So these 20 years, I still have a ways to go, but I do enjoy the journey, and I look forward to making more memories, not only with my coworkers, but anyone that comes my way, you know, because I'm working with so many different departments. I like to take this time to thank my family. That's my rock. That's what gives me my inspiration for coming to work on the day-to-day. My wife, Myra, of 18 years. I love you. It's actually our anniversary today, 18-year anniversary. Thank you so much. My son Stevie, shout out to Stevie. When I first started here, he was in mama's belly, and he's about to have a birthday next month. He's going to turn 20. My son Michael, so He just actually got his driver's license. So for those of you that see him on the road, you might want to steer clear.
I'm sure he's gonna be a thank
Stay clear.
Yeah, and then my precious daughter Layla. I love you, baby. Thank you so much.
Take a family picture if you want. Come up and take a picture.
You don't need me. Just like we've done this before. Again, thank you for sharing. You don't have to stay. You can go do something more important.
Yeah, go for it. Go have breakfast. Good to see you.
Go fuel up.
All right, so do we have to make a motion and take action to move the or we can okay,
No,
so
you can just elect to move to
all right,
the
so
next item.
we finish now with special presentations and recognitions, but rather than moving into the consent calendar, we are going to move to item number 10, board member comments and requests for future agenda items. Okay? And with that, I will, why don't I start off? Well, I'll start off all the way to my right with Director Aguilar. If you have any comments, any requests for future agenda items, now is the time to speak.
Yeah, I was not prepared to make any comments regarding this item, but given my colleague here has made comments, I feel compelled to do so. So a couple things. First of all, and Tabitha knows this because of a private communication that she and I have had, that I am going to be at the community meeting tonight. Actually, I think there are going to be two of us there tonight to listen to what not only the folks that have written us have to say, but also those who are there to solicit their input. Jim will be there as well, so we can respond to any questions. But I want to make it very clear that any presumption that, particularly in my case, that we have made a decision about which way we're going to go on this issue, to me is still a very, very open question. I've had lots of questions. I've had discussions with Jim about it. We've seen what's happened at the Mission Springs Water District Board meeting. I mean, really, this conversation started almost 2.5-3 years ago when we were solicited from the city of Desert Hot Springs public officials to begin to talk about development on the Palm 10 Dillon corridor and utility infrastructure and how we could work together to facilitate that and promote economic development, which has been a big issue for me. So having said that, this thing has morphed into this larger issue regarding this potential annexation issue. I am, and I'll say this publicly, I am not happy with the fact that the Mission Springs folks have not stepped up. I'm hoping they'll be there tonight so we can hear directly from them. And also the city of Desert Hot Springs folks as well, because this is going to have to be a joint decision that we all will agree on is going to benefit the residents of this area. And at this point, I don't know that that's the case. So those are my comments. I will see you tonight. Looking forward to it. And I will then defer to my colleagues.
So to me, I know that we've had conversations for 2.5 years. I don't think that would have ever pushed the needle here for the board because of development. Okay, the biggest issue here, I believe. Okay, and I'm learning along with you. That's why a lot of information hasn't gone out to you, because everybody's learning. So we want to be factual when we give you the information, but the Chromium-6 is a big thing. Okay, is a big thing, and the state of California has some money for disadvantaged communities for the Chromium-6 remediation. Okay, CBWD will not qualify. We've already gone through the process to qualify for that money. They will not give us the money. Okay? They would, but give the money to MSWD, maybe. Okay, and so we need to go through the process to find out if MSWD can get that money. For instance, the city of Coachella, who it has their own water district, correct? They're applying for this money so that it doesn't impact their residents. So, to me, this board is only looking out for what in the long run is going to be the cheapest water option for you guys in the long run. That's all. So we're trying to figure out if we have to pay for the $50 million, what that's going to do to your rates, or if we could put you guys onto MSWD, they could get the $40 or $50 million or whatever it cost to fix the Chromium 6 by the state, and that would be a lower water bill. Okay, so I'm just learning. So that's the information that I have. It may not be the exact correct information. That's just kind of what I'm feeling. So I don't want you guys. I want you guys to stay, but I also want you guys in the long run to have the best possible outcome. And I'm here to make sure that the best possible outcome for the future is and we're not going to have a vote. There's not going to be a vote on a divestiture without board approval. That's just not going to happen. I just think that we had to go through this process, and I believe CBWD hasn't done a good job of explaining it because we didn't know. There's so many different avenues, and Tabitha, I want to say, when you get on something, you're like a dog with a bone, and I appreciate that. I think that we also need your help with this Chromium 6. This is hurting mostly disadvantaged communities in state of California. It's a crazy rule that if it was just raised up a little bit, something more that we could live with, we wouldn't have this problem. We wouldn't be talking about this at all. So I would welcome you to get involved in the lawsuit with the Chromium 6 to see if you can help push that over, because maybe this Chromium 6 goes away. We don't know. There's so many unknowns. So I'm just trying to be upfront and transparent with you guys. But, I think I've got your back, and I think there's a lot of board members that have your back, and we just want to do the best for you guys. So I'm sorry we're not as transparent as we should. We don't have all the answers, and what I'm telling you is not maybe all factual. It's just what I've been told. It may not be 100% true, but it's what I'm kind of hearing.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
I would just add one comment, and I don't know why this is, but the document, the loan and grant application from the city, is a public document. I have no reason to believe that there is a legitimate reason why you guys are not being given a copy of that. To me, that seems very odd. To the extent that I can help facilitate that, I'll be talking with the general manager and attorney about that. But that to me seems like an easy do. I don't know why it's such a complicated process. So I will look into that as well.
Thank you. I'm going to pass it on to President Powell. If you have any comments you'd like to share.
Yeah, so I've been listening. I think the comments are good on both sides. Hopefully it goes well tonight. Again, there's definitely, it seems like it's all about the rates. I get that. And, the question is, does the rate go up a little or does it go up a lot? We're probably not in an environment where it doesn't go up at all, but maybe it goes up a little and not a lot. That's really what we're trying to, that's the outcome we're trying to achieve here. I think the hard thing is to know what those numbers are. We don't, that's the guesstimate. We really don't know what those numbers are. So I guess what I would caution is not to make assumptions about what rates might be under the various scenarios. I think the one assumption is that we're in an environment where we're not going to see any rate increase, because unless Chrome 6, the lawsuit is successful and Chrome 6 regulation goes away, that's going to force an increase no matter what, just because of the massive amount of cost associated with that. And it's a mandate, so we would be stuck with it. Anyways, that's all my comments. Do appreciate everyone showing up. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And I'll just I'll add that yeah, it's my understanding and my intention that this board would have to take some formal action before there's any direction that we would divest of this area. That action has not taken place. I will also be at the meeting today, so I'll be joining Director Aguilar and our general manager to listen. I appreciate all of your concerns. I do think that there's a lot of unanswered questions out there, and I think that there might be some benefit to having a workshop where we can share whatever information it is that we have, and we can be pretty open about it and saying, this is what we know, this is what we don't know, and here's what we're gonna do to try to get to some answers, right? I think that's healthy. It's a matter of trying to understand when that makes sense, but I do believe that if we're gonna continue down this path, that we have an obligation to share as much information with you as possible so that you're well informed about what's going on. If we believe that there's misconceptions, well, maybe we can clear up some of those misconceptions. If we want to share whatever factual information we have, we can share factual information. I think there's a place for that, and I would encourage that we do that when it makes sense. I don't know. I think that's something that we were going to have to talk about, of, when that makes sense, but eventually we're going to have to get there. I would, I hope that we learn more today, right, at this meeting. And what I would like to do is I would like to add an agenda item to have another conversation about this at the next meeting. And maybe we can get more into just commenting about the topic. Maybe we learn something at today's meeting. Maybe we hear a lot about, you guys want a workshop? And maybe at that meeting we say, well, okay, well, maybe let's have a workshop. I don't see why we would be hesitant or have any concerns of having a conversation with the community about what potentially might happen and explaining why it would make sense that it moves in any specific direction. I mean, we have to, if we're saying that there's a benefit, well, then we have to share that with you and say, well, here's what we think the benefit is. And so that's, I think that's healthy. I would encourage that. So again, I don't know when that workshop makes sense, but I think we need to talk about it. So with that, I'm going to make a request that we have an agenda item for next meeting, simply to continue to have a conversation of what do we do next, right? And
Is there any, when you guys have this workshop, was it tonight or tomorrow?
Tonight.
Tonight. Is there going to be any more information that you can't give the residents between tonight and 2 weeks from Tuesday? I don't know. I don't think things move that fast.
I just want us all to be there. I just want us all to be there. I want all of us to be there. I want all of us to hear from the community. Not all of us have gone to these community meetings. I haven't gone to one. I'm going to go one to today. And I think this gives us a platform as directors of this agency to hear our constituents. And so I think that's fair.
The problem, excuse me, Vice President, the problem is if that's the meeting of the 9th, is that the next meeting date? Other than a special meeting on the 18th?
We have the special meeting is just one item specific, but our next board meeting is May 27th, a Wednesday.
Oh, it is. Okay, good. Well,
It's May 27th, and then thereafter is the June 9th meeting. So two things, if I can. Vice President Estrada, you kind of made a motion to add an item per our policy. I do need a second in order for that to move forward and for us to look at doing
And again,
that.
there's no specific action that I'm looking for as part of that item. It's just simply to have a placeholder for us to have a conversation.
Correct. Our policy on for the board that was adopted a couple of years ago is to add an item to an agenda during the board comments. Does just require a second, no actual vote. I just need a second member to support that item being added to a future agenda, whether it's the 27th or the 9th. And then the second thing, as far as the community meeting this evening. Nick and I are going to research that very quick to find out if there's any limitations as far as a quorum or so forth, or whether you can attend majority and perhaps not comment and so forth. So we'll have an answer for you before the meeting is over.
Thank you. Appreciate
as far
that.
as quorum.
Just a question and clarification. Are all the board members going to be here on the 27th? I mean, if the request is to have a discussion when all members are present, we need to make sure all members are present.
My notes.
You can't
looking at the
control that, I
calendar.
know,
Yeah,
but-
right now, but as of right now, I do not show any board member would be absent on that date. And then, yeah, on the 27th, I do not show.
Yeah, and again, I'm just
member
looking for a space to be able to have a conversation wherever
Excuse
that
me,
comes.
I have a question. Will
Yeah.
the new member be seated by the 27th?
That is all.
Potentially.
Potentially, yes. The new member could be seated by the 27th. Yes.
We're not voting on anything, it's just a discussion.
It is.
Yeah.
It's just a.
Well, I would second the request from the vice president.
So that's going to be an info discussion.
Yeah, we just to talk about what we think we need to do.
So we
and-
will list it under informational items, reports, and so forth, so that no necessarily,
Yeah,
no
that's
action
fine.
is being requested.
And if we have
just
to provide
information.
direction at
Direction.
that point, then we'll put it on the next
Correct.
agenda item to take action
Yes.
on that. And so,
Yep. Okay, thank
Got
you.
it.
yeah. Okay, well, thank you for coming, and we will move on, and we will see you hopefully tonight. Take care. Okay, we are gonna go back to
6.
Consent
number
calendar.
6, consent calendar.
Move approval.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Roll call, please.
President Powell,
Aye.
Vice President Estrada,
Yes.
Director Bianco,
Aye, yes.
and Director Aguilar.
Yes.
Thank you. Passes 4-0.
Okay. All right. So with that, I think my script got cut off. With that, we're gonna move on now to action items, and first up is Mr. David Wilson.
Morning.
Good morning. Oh yes.
If we can, just.
So we need to be out of here. How much
6
time?
minutes?
How much
So
time do we need
I,
for
I
closed
just, as a
session?
reminder, we're asking staff no more than 5 minutes for your presentation. We need to be in closed session, ideally before 9 if
he's got
possible.
this.
At the 9.
Yeah,
at the
so
very
we
most.
have 20 minutes. So let's try to get through the rest of the items in 20 minutes.
Okay. All right,
Any
purpose-
questions?
What was that? I was thinking that too. The purpose of this item is to adopt a budget resolution number 25-26-009 for the current fiscal year engineering department's operating budget for water valve operator wells and sewer manhole adjustments in the amount of $100,000. We keep a budget, we have a current fiscal year budget of $1.45 million in the operating budget to address when the local cities and counties do roadway improvements, surface improvements, and those sorts of things. We do not have prior rights, and so we need to come in and adjust the valves or the manhole cans. This year was a very active year, and the bulk of the budget has been expended, and so we're asking for additional dollars to cover the variance. And right now, Cathedral City has asked for some roadway improvements, and they need to get their project done by the end of this fiscal year for funding purposes, and therefore we're here to ask for the additional dollars for that. And I'll close.
Makes sense. Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any comments? Not seeing any. Roll call, please.
President Powell,
Aye.
Vice President Estrada,
Yes.
Director Bianco,
Yes.
and Director Aguilar.
Yes.
Passes 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, moving on to informational items and reports. The written communications to the board have been filed. We have communication logs. So with that, we're going to move on to presentations to the board. First up is Ms. Borja, Government Affairs Program Manager. Good morning.
Is it
I
green?
think it's off.
There we go. Okay, yes. Good morning, board. Karen Borja, Government Affairs Program Manager for the district. So, in response to the board's direction, we've actively been pursuing both legislative advocacy and funding opportunities to mitigate Chromium 6 efforts. So, beginning in February, right after the day I last saw you up here, went up to Sacramento and had a meeting with Assemblymember Wallace, Assemblymember Gonzalez, and State Senator Ochoa Bo, who have all said, yes, we will work with the district to elevate your concerns and help build some kind of momentum for funding for Chromium 6 mitigation. So on April 16th, Assemblymember Jeff Gonzalez submitted AB 2016, which asked for $69.4 million to fund just the first year's cost for 9 different water agencies, all public agencies. This bill was then sent to the Environmental Safety and Toxic Materials Committee, but because it is a funding bill, it needed to be heard before the state deadline of April 24th. So we had less than a week to get it into a hearing. That was not possible, so we had Assemblymember Gonzalez's staff talk to the committee consultants, make a couple phone calls. Assemblymember Wallace was also working with Assemblymember Gonzalez's office to try and get some kind of a hearing last week, and that unfortunately, it's called a special hearing actually, that unfortunately was not possible. So we've spent, I was in Sacramento last week meeting with Cynthia, Assemblymember Wallace's chief of staff, asking her, okay, now what can we do? So we are in the process of drafting a letter, bipartisan statewide budget funding request for $82.1 million. This now includes a total of 12 public water agencies. So that is where we're at on those directives from the board. Can I take any questions on that?
Who does that letter go to?
It would go to the governor and the chair of the Appropriations Committee.
What's the likelihood of success? Honest answer.
I do have Cyrus on the phone call, and he'd probably be able to give you a better.
Hi, Cyrus. Is that
Good morning.
is that
can you
pretty?
hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
If you'd asked me 48 hours ago, I would have said, hey, we're doing our best, but this is a low possibility proposition. But in the last 48 hours, we got a big blast that California is sitting on more cash than expected. So now I'm going to upgrade it to say we got a 15% chance.
15. Oh, okay. From zero. All
It's
right.
better than 0.01.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, 15 is 15. Okay. Well, thanks for being honest.
We have 4 other supporting bills that we're supporting that are pretty important to us. One has to do with Proposition 218 and water rate setting, another with permits for the State Water Project, PFAS funding, and then a $300 million annual request for the State Water Project as well. Any additional questions you may have on any of those bills? All right, I did attach our bill matrix that has roughly 30 to 32 bills that we're either watching, opposing, supporting, and the rest, and that's in the agenda.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Not seeing any. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thanks, Karen.
Okay, we're gonna move on now to presentation by our finance director, Ms. Romero.
Good morning. Kim Baker, our procurement supervisor, and myself will be co-presenting during this item. So I'll start us off and then I'll turn it over to her. The procurement policy, we started these edits back in about October, November of 2025. And we had some internal discussions during our ERP implementation. It was discovered that the Exhibit A, which lists the authority, signing authority, procurement authority for our directors, managers, supervisors, and our general manager, was not coinciding with the examples within the policy. And so there was confusion, right? Do we program the system based on the examples, or do we program it based on the thresholds? Which got us to review the entire policy, find all these edits, and then from there started to incorporate other legal requirements as well that have existed since the last update in 2023. After all of that internal review, we did send it over to BBK for review and also our legal counsel. We also sent it to our external audit agency for review. And then we incorporated their comments with additional comments we had also. Just because we reviewed it once doesn't mean we didn't review it again. We continue to receive feedback and comments internally, incorporated all of those, and then resent it again one more time to both the auditors and BBK. We weren't expecting a response. Auditors did not respond. We're basically in agreement with the combined edits from everyone. And then BBK did provide also an acknowledgement and no additional edits at that point in time. And so that's the red line policy that you are seeing at this point. We did have an initial kind of sneak peek of initial edits in February to the Finance Committee as well. And so staff has been working on this for quite a few months. We are not anticipating to bring back a final policy for your approval until July. We do want to put it in the new policy format. And since we will be having a new potential board member seated this month, we also want to have some time for them to review, kind of get up to speed, and then be able to make an appropriate vote on that item as well. This exhibit, Exhibit A, is what is directly in the policy. Again, no changes to the thresholds, the limit approvals for our board members. What is added here is clarification at the bottom regarding contract signing authority. That lies directly with our general manager. If sometimes he may take vacation and delegate his authority to one of our assistant general managers. But a lot of people were confused, like, well, does this mean I can sign a contract up to that authority limit? And the answer would be no, that lies with our general manager and is included in section 1120.1 of the policy. And the other thing we noted here also is that we added the deputy director position. That is a current position we are recruiting for and was not included in the policy. And we incorporated that threshold limit within the assistant director and director level in order to avoid an additional approval limit authority. We have programmed our new ERP system Workday with these thresholds in mind. Throughout the review of the policy, we were asked by internal employees if we could increase these, and that was not the intent of this particular policy edit. We would want to do some additional research if and when we wanted that recommendation to come to the board to figure out, well, what is the volume of the current approval limits in each category and what are other agencies doing? We have not done that legwork. And again, we are about 2-3 months out of go live for our ERP system, and reprogramming a system at this point would be would delay our go live process. But we can certainly do that in 2027 should the board would like us to look at those policy thresholds. Any questions so far?
No.
Okay. So just a brief overview. I'll only highlight the items that we haven't discussed. We already talked about there's no approval limit changes. Again, a lot of the red line text is for clarity, updating of examples. We did update some definitions in section 8 to add some additional clarity. I think we added 2 additional definitions in that section. We also updated current processes to match our request for proposal process and our contract service agreements and insurances. And a lot of those edits were provided directly by BBK. Some sections, examples would be the bid protest process that's in section 13, our insurance requirements are in section 14, and our solicitation process on section 11. So all of those are to align with current processes and make it clearer of what the intent and process is. And then in orange there at the bottom, we have federal, updated federal references and limits. In 2024, the Uniform Guidance approval thresholds were updated, and so the updated limits in the policy reflect those changes to mirror what the federal procurement guidelines provide. And you see a lot of red line in this section, but they're not new items. These items were moved from section 12 to section 11.25. Our auditors noted upon their review that federal procurement guidelines don't only apply to emergencies, but that they also apply to all federal funded projects. And so removing that from section 12, which is emergency section, to section 11.25 provides for a global implementation, which we already do of all of our federal procurements. And then AB 339, Assembly Bill 339, took effect January 1st of 2026 this year. We do reference this Assembly Bill in section 16.1.5. However, the current memorandums of understanding preclude us from needing to provide notice to labor groups under this assembly bill. And so it is recognized within the policy, but also noted that we would not need to do anything at this point in time to abide by that policy. And that was based on Labor Council review of the policy, and BBK also reviewed after that edit was made. The two new sections that are added in the policy are sections 3.2.1, sections I and J, and these were reviewed by both our Director of Information Services, Luis Maciel, and then also our Director of Human Resources, Scott Hunter. These sections pertain to solicitations regarding information service softwares, and then also regarding recruitments, and just giving them an opportunity and flexibility to do those procurements, slightly more flexibility within those. So I'm going to pause there, see if you have any questions on the edits. We can certainly circle back, but I'm turn it over to Kim if that's okay. Okay.
Going.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
Kim Baker, Procurement Supervisor. Carla, thank you for getting this started today. So I first wanted to say that when I was being hired for this position, one of the first things that I did was review the procurement policies even before I was offered the job, because I wanted to make sure that the place I was about to enter was solid. And what I found was a really good set of policies for procurement. So as Carla mentioned, the changes that we've made are very, very minor. It's just really some clarification and some cleanup to make it a little bit easier for the staff to understand what the policies are. So where I'd like to take us next is a few more areas that we would like to discuss with you about the policy. So the next area is going to be the tied bids. So what happens right now in our policy, and this pretty much follows the state law, is that when you have two bids that are the same, you pretty much do what sounds very silly, but it has been this way for a very long time, is you pretty much just draw names, flip a coin, or do something that's just very benign and fair. However, in recent years...
What constitutes the same?
So that would mean if you had two bids, two numbers that came in from two different bidders that were exactly the same.
Exactly.
Exactly the same. So now you have to make a choice.
Does exactly the same mean like $50,000 apart?
It means both would be $50,000, let's say.
Oh, okay.
Okay? Same dollar amount.
Okay.
But I thought we never go with lowest bid. I thought
So
we always say
that's-
lowest responsible bid. So would we ever be in that position?
It's very rare, but it does happen. I could probably count on one hand the number of times it's happened over the last several years. But occasionally it will happen. And when it does happen, you have to have a way to actually break that tie. And you're right, this is when you're just talking about bids, lowest responsive responsible bidder, not when you're talking about RFPs where you're actually scoring the RFP. So this would just be a bid. And you have a tie bid, you have to have a way to break that tie. And you typically just did it, like I said, draw straws, flip a coin, pull a name out of a box or a hat to figure out who wins. However, in recent years, we've been advised, and have been advised recently by our legal counsel, that you can actually make that a little bit more meaningful if you'd like. So in other words, you can implement different things to help you break that tie that are maybe better for the district than just flipping a coin. For example, you could put in the policy that you want to break the tie by awarding it to the local bidder. You could break the tie by the one that has the best past performance history, or one that has the best delivery time frame for those particular items.
Are you looking for direction now, or is this?
We
a proposal,
are.
or-
So we thought this would be an area where you could, not right here in the moment, because you're probably just now hearing about this, but you could take this away, because we've got plenty of time, and you could think about what you believe might be best for the district in the event that we had a tie, and how you'd like to see us break that tie. Because we do have a lot of flexibility and freedom, according to our legal counsel, to make that more meaningful to the district. So we wanted to bring that to you and let you have an opportunity to weigh in on that, and then you can provide that feedback to us at some point.
Okay. I'll give you some feedback, local business.
local business.
Let me ask you a question. So you can go back if you have a tie
Yes.
and ask them for another best and final offer?
You can, you just have to be,
Put it in your policy.
you have to have it in your policy. Whatever you're going to do, it has to be in your
Okay,
policy.
so let me ask you another question. Could you write that the ties are within a certain percentage points, so that if you have two bids that are within 5%, that then we could be legally we could go and ask them, okay, give us your best and final. When you have two bids that aren't exactly the same, but they're within a few percentage points, and I'm just throwing out 5%.
Right.
Maybe it's 1% or 2%.
Right.
Because the way I see it now, you can't go back. Once the bids are all in, you can't say, if you give me a cheaper price,
Right.
then we'll go with you, right?
Right.
But this is a way that you could, if
Right.
we wrote the policy to where ties are not the exact same dollar amount, but the ties are within a few percentage points.
Now that I'd probably have to get legal to weigh in, because you have to be a little bit careful about a concept called bid shopping, because the bids are publicly read. Everybody knows everybody else's number. So you have to be a little bit careful about that. In a tied situation, they're equal. So you have this extra flexibility to try to figure out what you're going to do next. If you're talking about bid differences, we'd probably have to get a look at that.
The likelihood of this happening is almost
It's
zero.
very slim.
It's zero, and I think
because a tie isn't 1%.
They have to match the cents.
No, no,
You know what I mean?
But I'm saying is write the policy to where the ties are within a few percent.
Oh yeah, but now they want to involve legal for that.
Know,
and-
that's why I'm asking in public.
Right.
Yeah.
See if
I mean,
it's legal.
Right. There are things that other agencies do, like if a bid is within, let's say, 5%.
I'd like to do that. If that's possible.
Yeah.
That. I mean, that's.
Yeah, me too. I would not want to do, just so you know, and we need to hear from John, but flipping a coin or pulling names to me seems really arbitrary.
Yeah.
And not something that we want to consider.
Right.
That seems really unprofessional.
Right.
We could gain more from something more well
That's
thought
what we're
out,
thinking.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Like even helping local businesses, things
Right.
like that is a lot better than flipping a coin.
Yeah, so
Right.
you're on the right track. I just think if we could.
Yeah, I
make
think we can have legal counsel research that, but I can tell you after 20 years of experience in the federal acquisition business, equal is equal.
Right.
It's not within a percentage.
Right.
Because once you start deciding what's equal when it's not equal, you run into a risk of a bid protest, which could get overturned in a court. Because even if your policy allows, there are other overriding regulations that say it has to be the lowest responsive bidder. Those are state regulations. They're not local agency regulations.
No, I understand. That's why I'm asking. But
Yeah.
But a lot of times here, staff says we don't want the lowest guy. We want the second or third guy. And they
But
give
that's
us
a different
reasons why.
process.
Right.
Yeah.
That's under a qualifications request for proposal, not bidding.
No, for bidding, we don't always go with the lowest.
If they are the lowest responsive bidder, we are required to go
obligated
with
to.
them.
We would have to
Yeah.
rely on either responsibility or
Correct, but it's not.
responsiveness.
I guess the point we're making is that it's not the lowest.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
And there are communities that do have like local preferences in their bid policies where they can give a local business, let's say, a 5% advantage, where they could be 5% higher and still.
I think that's
get the
actually
bid.
where we've been trying to go, and we haven't quite figured out where to implement that policy to allow us for that.
Yep.
But we have had that conversation as a board of creating criteria that that provides, some support for local disadvantaged businesses, local businesses. We put out a lot of work. I mean, millions of dollars a year.
Right.
Over $100 million of work a year, and that's just CIP. I mean, that's not the operations and maintenance.
Right.
We buy a lot of material, and we ought to try to invest that money here in this community. So I think that's something that we've all kind of expressed in the past. We don't really know where to plug it in so that we're
Right.
able to do that. Maybe if you can help us here figure out how that happens, I think we would like to see that.
Okay. In most communities, it's like an ordinance or it's a separate policy that lays on top of the procurement policy. And so we can certainly take a look at that and see what direction you guys would like to go. I have worked in communities that do that. And the only place you can't use it right now is on federally funded jobs. And that's starting to change, but the federal government has always had a pretty big policy about it's a no-no to give local preference, geographical preference, but it's starting to soften. We're starting to see some testing of that water, and it's starting to open up a little bit. So that would be the only place we would have to be cautious. In most communities, we would leave that out if we knew federal money was going to be involved. But otherwise, we can do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I know we have an interest of time, so I'm going to go ahead and move forward. So, and I want to talk to you next about two things that are not in the policy and why it's not in the policy. And the first item that I wanted to bring to your attention is the weights or points in the scoring criteria. So in RFPs, which are your more subjective, bids or proposals, solicitations, you're actually using a combination of the qualifications of the firm and the price. And so when we develop these particular solicitations, it's very important that the procurement office have flexibility on what those percentages need to be. So I know there's been some talk about this across the dais over time, and I just want to explain why it's very important to not put this into policy. The criteria needs to be shaped by the scope. So whatever your scope of work is will determine what your criteria is going to be in the solicitation. And then the percentages or the weights need to be determined by what's most important to that end user. So if I'm serving domestic water and we're doing a solicitation for, let's say, a consultant to come advise us on something, we're going to want to talk to the folks that run that operation and figure out which one of the criterias that we set are the most important to them and which ones are the least important to them, and have flexibility to put those points or those weights where they belong. And ultimately, we want to provide those weights based on what's best for the district. So it's not a one-size-fits-all policy. And I've also learned in a long, long time of doing this type of work that if you make the points on price too high, then you will have price drive the entire determination under an RFP. So if you're going to go there, you might as well bid it and just go with the low bidder, because that's what you turn it into when you start getting the points too high. And what is too high? A lot of times too high, in my experience, has been anything over 20% is considered too high, because then it starts really skewing the results just to the price. And that's not what you want in a best value solicitation. So what we would ask here is that the criteria always be allowed to be set by the procurement office in conjunction with the end user that they're supporting.
It makes sense.
Well, it does, but you're giving a lot of, and don't take this wrong, a lot of leeway to staff.
Yes.
And I think price, whatever it is, needs to be a little bit higher than everything else. I mean, 30% seems, there's still 70% more. I mean,
you would be amazed, though, when you go through a number of these, and I've been through thousands of them, that if you get that price weight too high, somebody can just buy that work. And they may not be the most qualified or the best for that particular job. And so it's really taking away the flexibility. And you have to remember that this RFP process takes 2 months to run, 2 months of staff time. So if you put 2 months of staff time into trying to evaluate, read, digest all of these companies' proposals as they've written, and everything's just going to be weighted mainly on price, you really have wasted a lot of that time because it will overshadow.
Why don't we?
But listen, staff puts the proposal together, and they say exactly what they want.
We put the RFP together.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And the person bids saying, "I can deliver this at this price." Right. So we have to hold bidders to the cost and the job. So their feet has to be to the fire on making sure that they perform.
Yes.
Right? And
yes.
Okay? And sometimes that takes work, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, and I get that there are other contractors that are easier to work with, right? But they're more expensive. Some of them, and I don't want to go down this road to where we have this flexibility to where we have.
Well, maybe we could control it by putting a range of you know, if you wanted to move things, you can't move it more than 10% on any of those, right? Because right now you're saying, are we saying right now that the proposal is that staff can
We'll set the percentages.
can set the percentages
and that's the
however
way
they
it's
want,
done in
right? So
Yes.
so maybe a way for us to control some of that
Yes.
is by say, okay, well, these are the ranges that you can assign these different criteria. Take what you have here now and say you could go as high as 40% on cost and as high as, you know, maybe you put some ranges there so that you have some control and it's not, to Director Bianco's point, just completely at the, you know, at the freedom of staff. So maybe that's something that you could look at. Other than that, I don't know if we have to have,
And there has to be
if
some
we have to
cost-
have like 3 options of pick one.
But there has to be some cost parameters. So I mean, you can't.
Oh, there will always be cost parameters, no
Not
doubt.
Not the way you've got this. You could have cost at 10% of your bid, and someone 25% more than the other bid, and staff decides to pick this one because it's still in the project parameters. I mean, we need to have some kind of restraint to where if you have 2 bids and one's
Right.
Yeah,
you know, we can't.
I think put ranges on there so you can't
Right.
get out of those ranges,
But
right?
keep in mind that this is for primarily services and professional
Yeah,
services.
whatever
it's
it's
not
for.
going to be for construction or anything
Yeah, we get
of
it.
that
but whatever it's for.
materials. Right.
I think the board's saying we just want some control of
Right.
of the range so that it doesn't skew.
And
Not that it probably will
Right.
never skew that way because
It
it's just
doesn't.
not common practice. But
correct.
But to his point, without the policy,
Right.
technically, you could decide to make cost 10%.
But the procurement office is not going to let that happen. Like they're not going to let it be 0.
But not because it's policy, just because you won't.
Not
let
because
it.
it's policy,
Yeah,
because
so I think we're
we
saying,
would work with the end
yeah.
user and determine what the best percentages are, and we'd always recommend against anything that was too low in the price area. But we'd also recommend against anything that's too high in the price area as well. Because again, if it goes too high, you might as well put it as a bid and not even do a subjective process.
We just have to have some guardrails.
Put a range in the
Okay.
policy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I agree with that. Kim, I just have one comment, and
Yes.
that is one of the concerns I have frequently when we evaluate, particularly services proposals, is that the selected provider, we've worked with them before, as many of our engineering firms, you know, we work with, but also that they're spread really thin, working with other clients.
Yes.
So I would, and I don't know where this goes in your matrix here, but the issue of, you know, what is your staffing allocation to this project, and
Yes.
what else are they working on, to me is a really important question to ask.
Yes. And that's
it.
why, you know, like I say, if staffing is hugely important to it and the quality of staff is very important, then you want to make sure there's a good significant weight on that particular part of it. But I hear what you're saying. We do always need to look at their resources and their workload availability.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right. We have to speed it up. We have another. It sounds like we still have a bid opening evaluation procedures presentation, so we need to get through that, and we still need to do reports, and so I say we have 10 more minutes.
Okay, so
Not
we're
for
almost,
everything. So
we're almost done. So the next one is just the same subject on number of committee members. And so again, we didn't put this in policy because it also varies depending on the type of solicitation that we're actually pursuing. If it's a very simple service, something very small, and it does involve a lot of staff time, we might limit that committee to a group of 3 members. If it's very complex, such as a new ERP system or something very important to the district that involves a lot of different departments, then we may do a much larger committee of, like, say, seven members. So we just want to bring your attention. This is something else we allow to be flexible based on the level of the work or the solicitation that we're actually working on. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And that's it. So next steps, we're gonna, as Carla mentioned, we're gonna put this into a standard template. We wanted to give time for the new board members to come on and actually have an opportunity to look at the policy, and then we will be back in July, in the middle of July, to try to get this finally wrapped up and approved, and then we'll train staff.
Thank you.
Right, thank you.
Thank you. Good job. All right. So we have one more. I try to get through this like in 3 minutes.
30 seconds.
30 seconds. Okay.
This one will be very quick.
All right.
This particular resolution has been in place for 23 years, since 2003. You note that the edits are super, super minor. They basically are recognizing the public bid openings. So construction bids are considered public bid openings. There was confusion regarding, do all bids need to be public bid openings, like an RFP would not. And so it just adds clarity there. And it also updates our Department Public Affairs and Customer Service, had a formally listed as communications service / conservation. Those are the only two edits. We'd like to bring this back as just a consent calendar item during the next meeting. Again, the policy has been in place for 23 years, and there's
Carla,
just
there
cleanup work.
There have been updates since then, though.
Yes, there
Okay.
have. The last update was
that's not the
to
last one.
incorporate, right, the last update, 2003, 2009, and 2023. The last update was regarding electronic solicitations, which also remains in the policy and is also incorporated in our procurement policy.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right. With that, we're going to move on to board meeting reports. And I'm the first one up. I think Director Aguilar, you might have reported on this. I think this is the meeting that we had,
Yeah, I did.
right? So you heard Director Aguilar report on this. It was a meeting where we had a conversation about using the funds, trying to see if we can move the funds to the Salton Sea Authority. And so we had a conversation with some folks from the Bureau, and I think we're still trying to figure that out. So I was not at the La Quinta birthday celebration, so you can remove me from that. And then on the April 29th, Director Aguilar.
So, so I participated in a webinar that was hosted by the Salton Sea Authority, the Corps of Engineers, to talk about their feasibility plan and the 4 alternatives. They had a public hearing, and it was actually, this is one of 3 committee meetings they're having on the feasibility study. I also attended on the 6th a meeting with staff here to talk about the procurement. Met with Kim and with Carla to go over the NGM, provided some comments on the draft document, which you heard about today. And then yesterday on the 11th, I attended in Palm Desert the opening of a 176 unit affordable housing project by UHC, Urban Housing Communities. 176 units, all family. We got a nice shout out from Supervisor Perez, and our staff from engineering and from ops were both heavily involved in that project, and so thanks to them.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other board meetings that are not listed that you'd like to add?
No.
No?
I had
Okay.
one, Castro.
Okay.
We had a request on the Varner Road sewer capacity system by a couple of the consortium members, Maria Gonzalez of GHA and another fellow, Chris, from one of the other companies. And I think they raised some really valid concerns about how the first one in paying the sewer capacity charge, they end up paying more than the stated amount for the collection system. And they don't necessarily get that back. And so the first one in may do improvements that benefit the next people in, and then there's no system set up yet to collect it to get that money back. So they just get the credit for their capacity charge is all they get, and they might have spent a lot more than that. So I don't know. I think it's worthy of future conversation to take a look at that.
Sounds like the Dutch Brothers conversation we've been having.
Well, no, I mean, Dutch Brothers wanted to build before the thing was built at all.
No, it's always been about recovering cost. Yeah, that's a big problem. I mean, I agree with you, but yeah, I know exactly what, you're required to put in millions of dollars worth of infrastructure. You get credit for 500,000. You're out millions, and then the next person down the road just pays impact fees that amounts to you know, a few $100,000 and they benefited from the $3 million that you put in.
Okay, we're
Anyways,
just,
I think it's worthy of further discussion.
Yes.
yeah,
it is.
we're just talking about meetings.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Anything else?
No.
All right. Is there a motion to approve per diem?
I'll make a motion.
Second. Okay. Roll call, please.
President Powell,
Aye.
Vice President Estrada,
Yes.
Director Bianco,
Aye.
and Director Aguilar.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to reports. General Manager,
I have nothing, sir.
Council.
I have no report, thank you.
Any other reports from departments?
No, sir, I think they all had a chance earlier today.
Thank
Well,
you.
At least some of them did.
Okay. With that, we're going to move on to closed session, and then we'll be back to reconvene. Okay, we're back, reconvene, and there's nothing to report. This meeting has concluded. Thank you.
That's all I see tonight.